Most studios had a starring character, and then they had a group of miscellaneous cartoons. Warner's had more than one star. The public wanted Tweety and Sylvester. They wanted Bugs Bunny. They wanted some Daffy Duck and Porky Pig.
The directors were basically contracted to do a certain amount of Bugs Bunnies each year, a certain amount of the other characters, and then if they all did 10 cartoons a year, that would leave one or two oddball results.
Just some new ideas, some one-shots.
So do an American.
Some of them are just funky exercises. For animators to be able to say, that's a character whose behavior you recognize without any facial details and without any dialogue whatsoever, that's really pure animation. That's a great reason to make an animated film. And I think a lot of the experiments, fell under that umbrella.
Often it was done in the hope that maybe a new character might come out of this, but it was never thought of that way by a writer like Mike Maltese. He always used to say the Roadrunner and Coyote, that was just an accident.
It was just a parody of two characters chasing each other in the desert. That's the way these characters develop, out of a one-shot idea. Sometimes they would do a one-shot idea, no matter how good it was, and it didn't go any further than that one cartoon, and they knew that. They knew there was no sequel to this.
Calling Stork 672, 672.
Hey, that's my number, 549.
Animation changed a lot in the 1950s. UPA and the modern style of cartooning was coming in at all studios, including Warner Brothers. Animation was being hailed as an art at foreign film festivals. So some of this creeped in a little bit. Chuck Jones accepted that a little more than the others, but they all sort of wanted to have their say. They had an opportunity. They knew it. I have an opportunity to actually make a film fully funded by a major studio, and I can do really anything I want with my one little slot a year.
Me ready.
What's great about the one-shots are they weren't reliant on any formulas. They didn't have to follow this kind of a character or that kind of character or any kind of a character.
Hello, dear.
Hello, big boy.
The filmmakers would gravitate toward a certain idea, and even though it didn't fit into any set series, they would just go ahead and do it anyway, because a good idea is a good idea, and if it was a funny concept, they would find a way to make it work.
I think the directors needed to make these just to break up the monotony. Like Tashlin went on record as saying he hated Porky Pig. He just couldn't stand doing the same character over and over again.
It's hard to take a character just out of nothing and give it a personality and suddenly say, here's your new Warner Brothers star. So I think they became more enamored of taking simpler ideas and just doing one-offs with them.
They'd save these little ideas they had and try them out and experiment with these cartoons in between all those Bugs Bunny cartoons.
I think that Chuck was the one who took the most with him out of these one-shot shorts, and he was the one who later interpreted them through the films he would make later in his life.
They were all not consciously saying, hey, we're experimenting here, but you could tell that they were just drawn to try things. And Chuck Jones, probably of all of them, had the lowest threshold of boredom just in doing average cartoons.
If you look at the cartoons made around this time, they're all post-war cartoons, and I think at that point, a lot of the directors had felt they had pretty much done it all with Bugs and Daffy and some of the other characters, and now they were looking around for ways to experiment. Also, they were trying to cater to different tastes.
Let's see what we can do that's interesting with sound. Let's see what we can do that's interesting with graphics. Let's see what we can do that's just off the beaten track in terms of the content. Now Hear This is all about sound gags.
It was the first cartoon to break the mold of the opening circles in the Warner Brothers Shield coming up as a completely modernistic opening and closing, which they used later on some of the later 60s cartoons. Chuck just broke the mold with that film. It's all about sound and about hearing. He tries all sorts of things. No backgrounds, giant words on the screens, no...
The funny animals, I think, were fine in the 30s and 40s, and now I think they were looking at other influences, such as magazine cartoons or comic strips or sitcoms even, also drawing from their own lives. So that's why you have cartoons like Wildlife a cartoon from the wife's point of view. You look at it now and it's kind of simple and even kind of sexist, but at the time it was a big departure for them to do a cartoon from a woman's point of view, and this is what goes on in, quote, the little woman's day when the man is off bringing in the bread.
Well, I dare you.
Oh, yeah?
I bet you can't do it.
These oddball one-shots, they're a little more mature, they're a little more arty. They're not kiddie cartoons.
High Note, for example, is a delightful cartoon about music, about musical notes and understanding sheet music, if you will, but basically taking a very fanciful look on what happens if one of them is incorrectly politically drunk and what that might do to somebody trying to play the Blue Danube. Graphically, that's one reason to make that cartoon.
You've nothing to do, and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on the egg in my nest?
Horton Hatches the Egg was the first attempt at doing one of Dr. Seuss's stories and translating it to a movie. And of course, Clampett put his own gags in it. Like, the rifle was pointing right straight at his heart, and it's actually pointing at his behind. But that's a Clampettism. And of course, the Now I've Seen Everything Peter Lorre fish.
Well, now I've seen everything.
McKimson did an unusual oddity in the 60s called Bartholomew versus the Wheel. The characters look like they're based on James Thurber artwork, although they're not. They're just sort of Thurber-esque. And it's a little story narrated by a little boy about a dog who chases wheels. It's really completely unique. Nothing like it that you've seen in other Warner Brothers cartoons.
Going westward across the rolling plains of Texas, we find a typical Texas cowpuncher.
You can certainly say that these films fit within the Looney Tunes canon, even though they're more experimental, they're more offbeat. Some of them have been very, very influential in terms of people latching onto catchphrases or things like that. One of my favorites is Chowhound. To this day, in our family, we still say, "This time we didn't forget the gravy."
This time we didn't forget the gravy.
I think what happened at Warner Brothers is the artists and directors and story people would occasionally come up with an idea that really fit no series character. It wouldn't work for Daffy or Bugs or Sylvester, but it was an amusing idea in and of itself. So you had things like Rocket by Baby, which takes the anxiety that every father goes through while waiting for a baby to be born, and then when the child actually appears, you know, it is from outer space.
Somebody goofed.
Would it be wrong to stay?
Many of them were nominated for an Academy Award, and deservedly so. These are definitely unique little films that are definitely not run-of-the-mill.
These films exist as great testaments to the artists and to the directors that they were able to break out of the mold and present something brand new to the audience. Then I believe you can go back and look at classic characters like Bugs and Daffy with new eyes and bring new things to those cartoons again.
I bought you a little present.
You did? Well, where is it, honey?
Here, dear. Little man, I've had a busy day.